Welcome in to Greenville Grit, Greenville residents in touch on 103.7 WTIB. This is the local show that keeps you connected and in touch with the issues that affect what's happening in your community. Greenville Grit is sponsored by Ribeyes, Kid Construction, and Greenville Toyota. Now, here are your hosts for Greenville Grit, Terry Williams and Michael Overton.
Hello and welcome to Greenville Grit. I am Terry Williams.
I'm Michael Overton and
I'm Dennis Mitchell.
And here we are, Dennis and Terry. We are one day after the Greenville City Council elections, as well as, what they said, 85 elections.
A lot. I was trying to follow in all the different
amount.
cities, especially Beaufort County, because I have an interest over there too, and trying to find out what was happening with the mayor over there.
Well, this is going to be a fun show because we have a lot to talk about with that, because really we're going to do that wrap up and talk about maybe some of the successes, some of the failures, and maybe what's going to happen over the next 2 years. Does that sound good to you? But before we do it, we got to thank the sponsors. So thank you so much, Greenville Toyota, for your continued support of our show. If you're looking for a new Toyota or Scion or a new used car, go see Craig Gillis and the Greenville Toyota team. They're across from Fresh Market on Memorial Drive, 321-3000, or at greenvilletoyota.com. Also, the Overton Group Real Estate Professionals serving all of Eastern North Carolina. And we do commercial real estate leasing, sales, business brokerage, and property management, and residential brokerage. Also, Ribeye Steakhouse. You always say,
I know. Just the thought of it.
So I got to go there. So I need to go because I'm hungry for a ribeye steak. If you're hungry too, go visit them at the corner of Fire Tower and Arlington Boulevard in Greenville, as well as in Williamston.
That's right.
They're looking for a great steak, great atmosphere. They have the Angus room, especially for these upcoming Christmas parties. We are 3 weeks away from Thanksgiving now.
I can't believe it.
So we're going to take our first commercial break, come back in 2 minutes, and we'll talk about the election wrap-up. Welcome back to the Greenville Grit. I'm Michael Overton along with Terry Williams and Dennis Mitchell. We're going to do a little wrap-up. I know Henry talked about it quite a bit today on Talk of the Town.
He did.
We can talk about our version, too.
That's right.
I would say that it was quite, I'll tell you, really some surprises. And I know when we were on Talk of the Town, Terry, we talked about P.J. Conley, and I told him up front, I said, I'm very biased.
Right.
But we mentioned that P.J. has been knocking on doors, and I would say that his footwork, the 200 miles of walking he
208 miles to be exact, he said.
Yeah.
And 2,350 doors.
Yeah. That's nuts.
That is
And I can
crazy.
attest because I saw him many times in the neighborhood pulling his little girl in a wagon or even carrying her as he did that and handing pencils out at the polls. That have his pencil sharpened for us. So PJ worked
Very hard.
And I think I would have to say Calvin has got to be stunned.
I would think.
I don't know, Dennis, what do you think?
Hey, I don't know what his state of mind is right now, but I mean, it's once we start getting into talking about it, another thing is that Calvin is the only candidate who actually campaigned against other candidates. So now he's trying to do the same thing he did last 2 years. Now it's time to work together. It's hard to do that after you really campaign against these people.
Right.
And technically, I mean, they don't really need you. You know, the city can move forward without you. And if Calvin historically does the same thing he normally does, he's going to play the opposition role, which is not going to be good for the city. It's really time for us to move forward. So he has some thinking to do.
It is. I'm really excited. I'm excited for Greenville. I think that we already saw, not this past 2 years, but 2 years prior, the plans that were put in place and what came to fruition as a result of that. Not a lot of planning in the last 2 years.
There's been no planning in the last 2 years.
That I can find. I've looked and looked. I didn't see any planning.
There's not.
So I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of their January planning meeting. I know they can't do everything by January, but I hope
we see some big projects.
I do too.
I hope that they put the sports complex up there to discuss.
I'd like to do that.
I hope that they talk about town commons.
Yes, we need to talk
taking the town
about
common
it.
master plan that was agreed upon by everyone or many people, and really start looking.
I thought
at
about
these
it on the way here. That's one thing you start doing. We got all these plans in place. Start putting plans in place to actually get them done. The town commons master plan is done. Now we need a construction document.
How long has that been done?
Almost 13 years. It's been a while.
13 years.
I don't know. I served on that.
2005?
I served on that. It hadn't been quite that long, but it's been a while.
Yeah,
So 10 years, 7 or 10 years.
but,
regardless,
But it
this
needs
was
to be
many
looked at
councils
again.
ago,
It's
but
gotta be
nobody would
looked
go
at
It
there.
needs to be looked at again. You need to have a phase plan for how
That's
you're going
right.
to do it. You need to start a process in place for funding it over the course of the years. Something actually needs to be done with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very refreshing to hear from our two newest council members, PJ and McLean Golly. They've been talking about these things.
Right.
So, I mean, they've been talking about it. You have the mayor been talking about it.
Well, and I think
Rose and
Candy
Candy's on
would
board.
love to see it.
Yeah, Rose and
Absolutely.
Candy on board with it. I mean, you really have a totally progressive council that's thinking in that
That's
towards
right.
those directions of making Greenville great, and it's going to be exciting. And I hope that Councilman Smalley and Calvin Mercer come aboard and make this a team effort. It's time to
Right.
stop the going back and forth. Let's unify the city and go forth with what everybody knows needs to be done.
I know. I agree with that. Well, I think part of the excitement that I saw last night after the election, we were, watching for the results, is I love the age that as we walk through. We've got a 23, 4-year-old now, and then we have PJ, who's what, in his lower 30s,
Mid-
mid
low
30s.
mid-30s.
And then, I mean, it just progresses, so we can kind of cover a lot of different age brackets. And I am hoping that this will encourage our young professionals to start volunteering on the commissions, on the boards, and get involved, because maybe now they'll have some excitement and feel like they have true representation. Because I honestly feel like I'm going to have some true representation now.
It's amazing. I mean, we never had anybody in a 20-server
I
Greenville City
know.
Council. I told on my Facebook page is that McLean took away my historical reference for being the youngest elected city council person. So, I mean, it's great. You're going to have different ideas coming from all
That's right.
walks of life. I mean, it's really great for Greenville, what's going
Well,
on.
what's going to be important for McLean is keeping a steady hand and a steady head. And he's a very, very smart individual. And I definitely think he wants to represent the students and make the area in and around the university a great and exciting place to live, and hopefully he'll follow through on that.
That's right. And I said that even when we interviewed him, and when I've talked to him off and on, he has a different approach of how he wants to bring that district together. And I think that resonated with the voters.
And that's exactly what I was going to say. I think his victory was because he started talking about unifying the district, which every election before then has been about splitting it up. This is my side against your side. He talked about unifying, and I think that resonated with the residents.
I think so
You're
too,
right.
because in the past for that district, all you heard about was Truna. I mean, that's all the term you always heard. And I didn't hear that from him. I heard, we want to work with students, we want to work with young professionals, we want to work with the people who already live there.
Well, let's
bring
talk
that
about
together.
that district and one of the polarizing things that was in the last election that was brought up in the last 2 weeks to try to scare voters
yeah.
in.
It was.
We haven't even talked about it on the
No.
show for a year. No one has mentioned it, but we're talking about the 3 and 4 unrelated.
Oh yeah, Calvin scare tag the emails. It's coming to your neighbor. Nobody's
I know.
talked about it.
Nobody's even brought it
Well,
up.
you know what? And
4-year-old
I actually
issue.
had a conversation with PJ one day, and he said someone actually stopped him and said, "Are you going to support this 4 unrelated to my neighborhood?" PJ's like, "What are you talking about?"
I know. Well, even
we're not
McLean-
even talking about
I know.
that.
Even McLean said, "I'm not going to discuss it. It's old. It's over.
It's done.
Let's decide what we're going to do to move forward." And I think that the residents in that neighborhood, I mean, there might always be something in the back of their minds wondering if it's ever going to come up again, and we don't know if it'll ever come up again. But it wasn't in the plan. That's not what this election was about. It was about how do we move forward. Let's don't look back.
Exactly, and but I don't even want to talk about it. But the amount of reinvestment that's taken place in the neighborhood the last 2 years, the students are informed. Downtown, eating at a restaurant earlier today, a student stopped me and was just talking about the issues.
Right.
I'm like, McLean really did his homework. I mean, these people really know about the issues. I'm
That's
like,
right.
I was really shocked at the level of depth of knowledge that the student was going into the issues. So I think he did a lot of good work educating people. People seen him out in that community working as a part of being a part of the neighborhood association there. And I think people in District 3 are looking up.
Well, let's talk about mayor. I wasn't so much surprised that Allen won because it is very difficult to
Right.
unseat an incumbent.
Right.
What I was surprised about was how much he won by.
Yes, he did.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty a tribute to Alan Thomas, his work ethic as the mayor of the city of Greenville.
Well, I can guarantee you one thing. He puts in more hours than any mayor I have ever seen.
Absolutely. Going to Raleigh, different places, advocating on behalf of the city. People see that, and people like the direction that the city is going into. I mean, and you contrast that with Calvin Mercer. Calvin Mercer can barely get over 50% of the vote citywide.
Right.
His second time running citywide. To me, it's not a true victory for him. Eric Anderson was unknown. He barely raised
With less than
$1,000.
$1,000.
$1,000. You raised almost 50.
Right.
And you still can't get over 50% of the vote.
I know. That's
and
right.
the third opponent that nobody saw got 873 votes. That's a testament to his leadership, and he should realize that people want him to come together with the rest of council and do his best for the city of Greenville. This opposition thing is out the corner, and every time he starts to go that way, media needs to call him out about it.
I know, that's right. Well, getting back to the mayor just for a moment, because I think one thing that I kept hearing every time that that Donna Whitley ran an ad or that Rick Crossbury came in with an ad, they were great ads, they were great people, supporting them, but it was always about greenways, it was always about parks or something to do with that. Not that that's not good. We've talked about that all along. But with Alan, with PJ, with the others, it was let's get jobs, let's do economic development. Then we can have everything we want. And I think people started picking up on that idea. I could not really believe, and I still don't to this very day, that Donna thought sidewalks and parks was going to bring businesses to Greenville. And she really believes that.
Oh, I almost choked when I was watching.
I couldn't believe it.
The ad came on TV. It really said the way we bring jobs is safer sidewalks, greenways, and green space. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
It's important, but that's not why they come here.
Those are things you do once you expand your tax base.
Right.
When your community has the money to do those things, you do them. But you got to concentrate on expanding your tax base and bringing those jobs first. Mm-hmm. They didn't get it. Michael?
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot to think about. There's a lot within the election to think about. I think one of the things, there's been discussion about the two PACs. Common Ground was started last time. This time, Greenville Jobs Now pops up. And, of course, Calvin and them are screaming about Greenville Jobs Now because, hey, Greenville Jobs Now went after them.
They had a message about your taxes, and it resonated again with the voters.
I told everybody when Calvin started that PAC.
He started that. That is his fault.
I told everybody when he did it, you opened up Pandora's box and it's going to bite you.
That's right.
Because other people are going to be able to play the game better than you did. Mm-hmm. And he lost.
Well, but the unfortunate thing about that is that really where we've gotten as a city? That our municipal elections have to be that dirty? This started 2 years ago. Uh-huh. It's actually started 4 years ago when you and Alan and them came in. And I'm not criticizing anything that was done, but you've got a group of people that have been on the council that kind of ran the city. They wanted to do it the way they wanted to do it. You and Alan and Max saw that. You went after it. Said, you know what, we're going to change the direction of the city. And I'm not saying everything was done.
It's correctly. Everything was done correctly.
Best integrated in terms of.
Yeah, but listen, Michael. Wait a minute.
Together.
Just think about what the Greenville Jobs Now ad did. Though they educated everybody.
I understand that, but my point is, it started that resistance, and then they go after it with Common Ground 2 years ago.
That's true.
To say we're going to kick them out, and they did.
Yeah.
And they did. And then all of a sudden, Greenville Jobs Now. So what's next? Is this going to continue to escalate?
I don't know. But Greenville Jobs Now, people did not really understand what had happened with their tax and fee increases until that started coming out and telling them. I know.
Terry's the one that put all that together.
That was the next district I wanted to talk about because he still did well. 1,073 votes against Rick Smiley's 1,647. I still think he did well, and I think people got his message. And look, he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I was going to say he's going to be part of the
We need him.
He did well. He didn't campaign. He didn't raise a dime.
I know.
If Terry would have campaigned and raised money,
never know.
He would have won that district.
Hey, he may be back.
Hey.
Yeah,
you never know.
Next council meeting and the next and the next.
Another district we kind of talked about was PJ's. I think PJ's work did a lot of it, his personalization. Yes. But also I think that Dr. Carstreet was just out of touch with his district.
Right.
Well, maybe he thought he had a guaranteed win.
Yeah, talking about things that wasn't important to people of his district. That District 5 is that really working class district.
That's
people,
right.
Families that really go out there and work to try hard to make ends meet. And that's one thing that PJ was saying is that when he was hearing these stories, when he's talking to these people, they want jobs.
That's right.
They don't want nobody raising their taxes. And when they hear the things that Dr. Crossbury was saying, it really didn't resonate with the people of that district. It's more so like of a District 3 type of message he was putting out there. I mean, it looked like he was in trouble, especially when PJ was out there doing that work. So,
right,
I mean, kudos to PJ knocking on doors. I mean, me and Michael talk about all the time. That's how you win elections.
Yeah.
Well,
that's a hard thing to do.
I really feel had I done what he did, I would have won.
Yeah, it's hard thing.
I wasn't willing to do 2,000.
I do think
355 doors.
Rick underestimated PJ. Rick underestimated PJ. There's no doubt about it.
I think Marion did the same thing to Golly, except towards the end they started realizing what was going on. And when you underestimate your opponent and they work hard, you leave those openings.
Well, both of those guys were very early on. And you know what? One thing I remember when I met them initially, they looked at all of us and they said, "I am going to win."
Yeah, they did.
You remember him saying that? And
well, another thing, I'll tell you something else.
And it reminds me of Alan Thomas when they went to him. He was an unknown person just like PJ, and this guy was like, he's going to win mayor, and everybody like, okay. When he put the hard work in, you did it, and them guys did it.
That's right. Well, I think too with both McLean and PJ told me even last night, what kept fueling them on was people telling them they couldn't win.
Oh yeah.
The more people said, "There's no way you're going to win," the harder they worked, and they proved everybody wrong.
Look, give me goosebumps because I've been in the same situation. I know the feeling when people tell you you can't do something, and in your heart of heart you truly believe you can.
I know
you're gonna fight real hard, and they're up there.
That's right, and of course Rose and Candy are back.
Candy was soundly, I think, right at almost 80% of the vote.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
I mean, we're still trying to figure out who the 250 people who vote for the other candidate, but yeah, Candy works in that district hard. The voters know it. And
she's one of the hardest working people across
she really
all
is.
districts.
And
no doubt.
And just my speculation, and barring something weird happens, I mean, Candy looked like a shoe-in for the mayor pro temp, but of course it's the council's decision.
It is their decision, but I will say this, she deserves it.
She certainly deserves it.
I know Marion's had her chance at it, and not Marion, but Rose has been that position before, and Calvin's been for the last 2 years, but no, I think Candy would be a good selection.
So, of these districts, what do you think was the biggest shock?
I'm gonna say District 5. Even though Calvin he did the work, I mean, it's still Dr. Crosby.
Right.
I mean, even his campaign material saying that 30 years of service,
and he has done a lot for the community. There's no doubt.
I mean, he's been people's doctors.
That's right.
The United Way Chamber. He has a very impressive resume of service. So even though Conley put the work in, I mean, I think that still was a huge win.
Yeah, I think
so. And of course, the District 3 was. I mean, it wasn't a shock, but it was like a wow. You know, because.
Well, see, Catherine.
He beat her by over 100 votes.
2 years ago, Catherine had a commanding lead in the early voting.
Yes.
And Marion came and beat her by, I think, 75 votes after the recount.
It was still very, what I consider close.
But when the returns started coming in, I saw that early voting number. It's like he really beat her in early voting.
Yes.
It was like almost the election was over with the number of votes in that district.
Well, because I think Marion won last time was 700 and some votes.
Yeah, so
where's that district? Yeah, so he won. She had 765. As a matter of fact, I think last 2 years ago, she only had like 745 votes.
Something like that.
So he dominated early. He pretty much won the election early voting.
I think so,
which is huge. And I mean, somebody needs to be getting to him, find out his get out the vote tactics and writing it down, because that's a campaign model to really go into early voting and win like that.
That's right. That was
awesome.
All
right, another big one last night, the bond.
Now,
wow, that was a surprise.
I am shocked.
I'm shocked.
70%. I'm really, really surprised. Now, I'm not saying I didn't think it wouldn't pass or would. I thought, honestly, it was going to be really close.
I thought it would be closer.
I wasn't expecting the overwhelming. Mm-hmm. So now, how do you break that down? What did the people say?
I think it's a combination of people.
Is it people like, we've got to get the roads done?
We got to get the roads down.
And suck up the rest
I think another part of it is that, I mean, there really was no real information out there on that bond in either direction.
Right.
So a lot of it was this voter not knowing, not really being.
Well, the voters pushed it through with not knowing.
I mean, so you look down there and you see.
I just think
because nobody was going to read that whole long paragraph. Yeah. You saw pedestrian and roads, and like, yeah, we need those, and we checked them off.
Yeah. I think it was just roads. I think the potholes won.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
So where do we go?
I don't know. I think it needs to be looked at.
What is the chance, if you really want to talk about how bad the next election is going to be, if they butcher that bond? Because that is the bond that people supported.
Right.
They need to, I say, the people spoken, regardless of what they wanted or not, they need to fund it and get it done fast.
The way that it's written.
The way that's written, and we still need more roads done.
Right.
So we need to figure out how we're going to fund more roads. Well, we talked about these roads that this bond is going to pay for. We still need more done.
Well, I think when further discussion comes about, and it will, with the public about what's really going to happen to that $750,000 for greenways. I mean, when you really think about it, nothing's going to be done with it except a plan. And I'm not so sure that particular amount should not be moved back to roads. I'm not sure. I think it should be discussed, moved back to
how
roads.
About if it stays out and goes
if you don't use it, you don't use it.
Park-related
Well,
items,
you can't do
such
that.
as town commons.
You can't do that in that question with that question. You can't use it for parks.
Okay.
You have to use it for something that's in the question.
That's right.
So
I
what
don't think it should be spent until all the money is there. I don't think you should start doing the planning of it until all the money is there.
Now, if the city finds the money in the budget that they could fund the other part of it, or if the federal funds all of a sudden come back, because that's
Then
how
go
most
for
of the Greenway was built in the beginning, then I'd
80%
say,
of it.
then that's right. Then I'd say go for it and let's finish the Greenway. Otherwise, I feel like it either ought to sit there or it might have to be moved, get all the roads done, show the public that they can get this work done, and then maybe come back in the third or fourth year from here with a real solid plan for some sort of a parks plan that would include finishing everything.
Can it be moved? I mean, we're talking about all these pedestrian safety issues we have with students getting killed. I mean, we need more sidewalks. So we move it toward more
sidewalks are on
sidewalks.
there, yes, you can do that.
Sidewalks are on there, so they could move
it
it.
to more sidewalks. I
Yes.
mean,
Yeah.
we're talking about that. So, I mean, that's one of those sticky subjects. And coming from someone who took on a controversial issue as soon as he got on the city council,
Right.
I would say, really, whatever you do, get as much
Let's
public
get some public
consensus on it
opinion.
that you can. Just don't jump out there and just do something because the way you feel it. I mean, that is that bond won 70%.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I'd
I mean,
be very, very
we want to
careful
create
moving
something,
stuff
especially
around.
with this council now. We want a stabilized council.
That's right.
So I mean, really listen to what the public's going to say before you do anything irrational with that, because you're going to pay for it during election time.
That's right. Well, the 10th Street enhancements and the Dickinson Avenue now, they're down the road. It's going to be a while before that will be used. So they can start working and planning now for the
Well, we're
for the
hoping
road.
that the city can do the deal with the state where the city pays to do Dickinson Avenue
Right.
and the state pays us back. So at least
Yes.
we can get it done
That would be
because
awesome.
that road is horrendous.
that's
We need to
right.
get and probably take our second
Yeah.
break. So we're going to get and do that now. We'll be back in a minute with Greenville Grit.
Welcome back to our show this afternoon. We're having a lively, great, exciting discussion about the election results and what Greenville has to look forward to with our newly elected council and mayor. And so what kind of other thoughts do you have, Dennis, about what you're seeing happen for Greenville in the next 2 years?
Well, I'm going to reach out to the two victors and give them some unsolicited advice on economic development. I mean,
Yes.
I really think there needs to be a renewed push towards
Absolutely.
economic development. And I really think
As in hiring an economic development director.
and I would make a great one, but we're not talking about that. But just, we really, really need to be a huge push. We need to go back and look at our incentive package that was told to us by the consultants that was very lukewarm.
And I know PJ was pushing hard for that.
Right.
too,
Yeah,
so.
and we need to go back and look at our strategic plan. It's about time to start updating and look at
right.
what direction we need to go into. And we really need to get vigorous in looking at these different clusters. Talk about the craft brewery industry that's booming. Asheville's trying to beat us to it. I heard Rocky Mountain's trying to do something with it now. I'm tired of losing out the Rocky Mountain kids on little things. And they can't really do what Greenville can do. We really need to start working with Pitt County Economic Development Commission, looking at a healthcare cluster as well. So, there's some things that we really need to push. The fire needs to be lit back under the city.
That's
Let them know
right.
this is very important to us and bring jobs and boost our economy up.
Well, when the council meets in December, do they talk about what they're going to discuss in their planning? I cannot remember if that actually comes up point by point.
I think it'll come up point by point. It's probably some one-on-one conversations, but I think this is one of the situations where they probably need to take charge of their own planning committee
Right.
and really tell the city manager what they want to talk about. Because a lot of times it's a lot of fluff, and you bring a facilitator in there and talk about stuff you want to talk about. They need to get down to business. That's what we did when me and Alan got on, and they probably need to do that again.
So the planning meeting that they have in January is open to the public, though,
Yes.
right? I thought so. That might be very interesting to see if we can get some people, involved in that and kind of listening to what the ideas are. I'm sure you can't say very much, but you can listen to what the planning,
Definitely.
what's going on about the planning. Well, the swearing in of all our new council and mayor is the first meeting in December, is it not?
Yes.
So how many more meetings? We have 2 meetings for November. They haven't had a meeting in November yet. So
I
there's
think they have one.
just one?
Just one.
Just one because of Thanksgiving and all. Well, that's probably pretty good. So we can look forward to the new council taking over
Let's
and
see if
going
they
and
can
making
shorten
plans.
the meetings up any.
I already heard that last night. That was one of the first things they were going to do.
Well, you got 2 young
well,
people
I
up
can tell
there,
you how to do that.
Yeah.
People just need to stop talking.
That's right. And I think that will
And
take care of
sometimes they
itself
just like
this
to
time.
talk because they like to talk and hear themselves talk to justify something where they already know what they're going to vote.
Well, one of the talkers is gone now, so.
Well, I think one thing too, with even in the interviews with PJ and with McLean, they talked, but they're to the point and they're clear, and you can understand them. And I think that the public will like that. And I am hoping that more people will tune in or even attend the council meetings. I know you don't like it. I know you're not going to be there, but I'm going to be just at some of them.
I show up for the exciting things.
I know. I think that I think that the public needs to take. They need to take a good look at who they voted for and see what's going to happen going forward. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, I agree with you. I look forward to the planning session and seeing, what can they get on the same page about what to bring the city forward to do some exciting things. I agree with you too. I mean, Calvin we need to figure out how to work together and come together as a council. What the issues I see, and historically, where Calvin is going to have a hard time is he has always voted against visionary things,
Right.
whether it's the parking deck or oh heck, Dennis, help me out here. Some of the other
Tar River Legacy Plan, Economic Development Plan,
Economic Development Department,
Yeah,
things
the big
that
things.
have brought money into the city in returns that could be several years out. He's always voted against, but no one can argue with the success of those. So he's going to need to kind of step back and say, is this right for our city in the future? Can the results of what these plans are be a boom for our city?
I think two things are going to be really important from the planning session for me. We've talked about it, and the advisory committee for the bond wanted them to start working on a bond schedule. They never even talked about it, maybe mentioned it one time. I'd like to see them get some ideas put down on paper. It doesn't have to be set in stone that quick, and it's going to take time to work it out, but they need to be talking about, what's coming up and and that's the vision. That goes back to the vision. And what we're going to need, because this is a Band-Aid bond for roads. I mean, it is just
a repairs bond.
That's exactly right. And
which is what we said. You're not even supposed to be using the bonds
right.
for.
I know, but we're going to have some more catch up done.
Well, hey, you know what? This people will probably shoot me when I say it. We probably need to have a bond sitting on the presidential ballot next November.
I know it.
A small one,
because that
$3 or
doesn't.
$5 million
That's right.
bond to say, all right, now this is what we want to do for the future.
Exactly.
This isn't repairs, but this is the first phase of the sports complex, or this is the
Right.
first phase
Hey, I said
of the town.
Another $20 million. If this bond does not raise taxes,
Exactly. That
I
was
said
my
another
point.
$20 million
That's
bond
right.
going there. Get it, knock some of
My
these stuff
goodness
out.
sakes.
I'm
50
ready.
million bond.
I'm
Let's get it done.
Oh my goodness
Let's
sakes.
don't go 50 yet. But I think it's going to take. I do think it's going to take some planning.
Well, it's been a fun few weeks.
It has.
To talk to there were
can't
some
stop
really
smiling.
there were some good people.
Me and
we
Terry
met
danced
even
the
the
white
people
night
that
away.
didn't win through what we did here. We met a lot of people. We had great conversations with them. We
Right.
learned a lot. And hopefully they learned a lot too through the process. And I mean,
That's right.
You step out in this. It's tough. You get criticized no matter what you do. Yet you're still a public servant, and you surely don't get paid back for what you had to put
That's
in.
right. Exactly.
But and Dennis, I know you've been there.
Yeah, I mean, to the losers, I mean, losing sucks. It sucks when you're elected and you lose. But life goes on. After a month, you're going to realize that you do have a life.
That's the end of the show. So thank you so much for joining in, especially over the last few weeks. If you want to catch any of them, watch them Friday night or Saturday morning on Cable 7. And until next time, we'll see you at the Greenville Grit.